And I see here Energy Cabinet Secretary Davis Chirchir with witnesses, in the signing of the last mile electricity connectivity. That is on the top page. You can look at that story. So we are having some good news here. Cheap electricity connections on the way. And we will see, just look into it as well to understand what is being reported as per that story. But moving on what is on the top page as well, battle for Mount Kenya rages on as president's men take on Gachagua. Page 4, the emerging rift between President William Ruto and his deputy Rigathi Gachagua has grown more evident after the leaders who have been dragged into the scheme continue to come out by engaging in more attacks against the DP. That is on page 4. Page 10, on opinion, anasema the mantra of one man, one vote, one shilling by the people of Mount Kenya is a cry for equality and equity in resource allocation. Still on the top page, I see here win for counties as allocation grows to 400 billion. And on the world international news, early voting has begun in South Africa. So I see here on page 2, new KEMSA boss now promises a brighter day for scandalous body. At the height of COVID-19, KEMSA lost billions of shillings in procurement scandals. And I see a myriad of maladies has brought the agency a sizable reputational challenge. This is a story on page 2. And 341, new CEO says this is not enough to do the job the agency is supposed to do, which is the staff number. That is 341 members of staff. And page 3, survey reveals surging male births and a drop in teenage pregnancies. Interesting. Male newborns accounted for 51% of all registered births. 11.8% of registered births were adolescent girls between the age of 15 and 19. And I see 80.6% is the percentage Kenya recorded, that is of the birth registration, and 47.6% death registration in 2022. Look at those numbers on page 3 of the Standard. And moving on, I see here page 5, ODM in a fresh bid to consolidate Nyanza block as UDA threatens. Deputy Party boss Hassan Joho says every effort must be made to keep ODM intact. ELA Suleiman Shabal wants people to come out during elections and choose the change they wanted. And moving on to page 6, I see devolved units to receive 400 billion as senators and MPs reach deal. So the Senate and National Assembly mediation results in unprecedented fiscal allocation for counties. Parliament reaches historic agreement to enhance devolution funding. Look at this story on page 6. And more on the same, Senate and National Assembly agreed to allocate an equitable share of revenue to counties where they will receive 400.1 billion shillings. Also, the National Assembly had proposed to have the counties allocated 391 billion as shareable revenue in the financial year 2024-2025. Look at that story on page 6. And moving on to page 8, I see the ex-con, illegal guns, and the fear of Kenya's police. Kafu, who is an ex-convict turned advocate, navigates risks and challenges to save lives. I see there are some 750,000 firearms in civilian hands in Kenya. Interesting here. And as Kenya struggles with rising violent crime, BBC Africa Eye follows one former criminal as he tries to persuade men to turn in their illegal firearms, one gun at a time. This is on page 8. Very, very interesting. An ex-con who is now helping to make sure that those guns which are owned illegally are returned, one gun at a time. And going to the sports page, I see here PSG prepare for life after Mbappe. The France captain brought the curtain down on his 7-year spell at PSG. Paris Saint-Germain start building for another assault on Champions League next year. And I see here down hapa chini naona Man United stars pledged to do greater things. Manchester United first team saying here, it was a further reminder that with your support behind us and the United badge on our chest, we can achieve great things. Look at that story on page 48. Moving on, still on the sports page, page 47, 3 things we learned from Monaco Grand Prix. I see here second driver Sergio Perez crash out on the opening lap in Monaco. Monaco. Look at that story. That is on page 47. Page 46, Murray denied perfect ending. The runner-up at French Open in 2016 lost his last singles appearance at the tournament. The 37-year-old had already announced he plans to call time on his career in the summer. That's it for the Standard.
Right. We check what's being reported in the Daily Nation, and they are going with the headline, Intern Teachers Win Fight for Higher Pay. Okay. 26,000 tutors hired in January last year to teach in public junior secondary schools can now end their ongoing strike and go back to class after the House Education Committee intervened to have the TSC allocated 8.3 billion shillings to convert them to permanent and pensionable terms with a hefty pay rise, allowances and benefits to boot. Read that on page 2 and 3. Employment on permanent terms pushed forward by 6 months to start on the 1st of July. I also see state walks back on its plan to end school feeding scheme. Hundreds of thousands of children from vulnerable homes have a reason to smile after Parliament overruled the National Treasury and reinstated a 2 billion shillings allocation for the school feeding program. These after the National Assembly's Education Committee reversed proposed budget cuts to the program in the next financial year. Some good news there. Also covered on pages 2 and 3 inside the Nation. Trucks, buses forced to use toll expressway. Nairobi-Mombasa fares, transport costs to rise. That is on the back page. And passenger fares and the cost of transporting goods on the Mombasa-Nairobi highway are likely to increase following a decision by the government to force trucks and buses on the proposed high-speed highway to be built by a consortium of US companies. In an investor presentation, the consortium for the Mombasa-Nairobi Expressway disclosed that this is one of the 6 responsibilities of the government in the 477.9 billion public-private partnership. So the 440-kilometer 4-lane dual carriageway will be built by a consortium of US firms led by private equity. Right. So government here, they are saying government to force trucks and buses on the proposed high-speed highway. Right. Still on the back page, 270,000 homes to get electricity connection in state-Saudi government partnership. So more than 270,000 homes will be connected to electricity at subsidized rates through a joint plan by the governments of Kenya and Saudi Arabia and the African Development Bank. Back page, you can read that story. Not all about goodies. US flexes soft power as it advances rights issues in Kenya. It's a story which is covered on page 10. So it is likely that the president had no option but to concede ground if he wanted a sympathetic ear. America is leveraging its influence to nudge the Ruto government towards important people-centered reforms. It's on page number 10.
Okay.
Then I see supremacy contests rock regions in UDA grassroots elections. President William Ruto's UDA is facing silent political wars now intensified by ongoing party elections as factions emerge in various regions across the country. Page 4 and 5, you can read that. Why NCIC wants new names for 10 counties. And so 10 counties named after ethnic groups could have their names changed should plans by the National Cohesion and Integration Commission succeed. And they are mentioning some of the counties: Meru, Tharaka Nithi, Nandi, Kisii, Turkana, Embu, Samburu, Taita Taveta, West Pokot, and Elgeyo Marakwet. You can read more inside the Daily Nation. Then I see on the county news, bid to bar retiring governors from poll contests pushes on. The proposal has elicited mixed reactions from different quarters. Governors who have served their full terms won't be able to vie for any parliamentary seat. That is on the county news. All right, getting to see what's happening in as far as the DN2 powering SMEs pullout is concerned. Eco furniture solution from plastic waste. Farm addresses growing marine pollution while also contributing to education through provision of eco-friendly school furniture. You can read that inside the DN2 pullout. Then I see DN2 Healthy Nation, Kenya's mental health crisis. 1 in 4 Kenyans is struggling with a mental condition. That is 25% of the total population. These millions face not only stigma, but also a grossly underfunded healthcare system. How do we come out of this crisis? That is the question. And stigma-breaking era, how Gen Z is changing the conversation on mental health. Then we go to the sports pages, and I see every match was like a final. Rise and rise of Kenya Police to the summit of women's football. I see also leopards out of the way. Police now train guns on KCB in final. I also see Amina's date with Destiny in Bangkok ring. And then creatives gain, but opportunity lost for sports in Ruto's U.S. state visit. I would have wished to see more sports conversations on this visit that would have solicited U.S. support for Kenya's sport development. That is Elias Makori, the business of sport. And Okutoi in final attempt at Olympics qualification. African champion needs to get into the top 400 by June 10th. And the 20-year-old competes in 2 qualifier tournaments in Tunisia, starting today. And that is what's happening in the Daily Nation.
All right.
Yep. The Business Daily quickly. CAK seeks powers to auction farms over unpaid fines. Fresh taxes threaten to take the fizzle out of gene revolution. Stanchart profit surges 39% in first quarter to 5.6 billion. Scan Group lays off 102 employees in latest restructuring. And this one had also been captured. Buses, trucks to be forced to use new US-backed expressway.
All right, and that's it for the newspaper review. Grab a copy of your favorite.
Yep.
But you can tune into Hope FM at the top of every hour. We have news updates right here on Hope TV. We also have Dira at 7 p.m. and of course 9 p.m. we have News Watch. So let's take a short break as we look at the video of the day.